Good morning. It is Friday, April the 12th, the day before the 4th of Battery race. So it is about 9:20 a.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson with iKitesurf, bringing you a preliminary forecast ahead of the final one I'm going to be giving tonight at the Skippers meeting. So I would register if I were you. At least come out no matter what. It's going to be a fun event. It looks like the forecast looks better for tomorrow than it did just a few days ago. It looks like we may end up with a battery to fort race this year. We'll get the final from Stan today and see what he wants to do. I'll be talking to him later. In the meantime, put myself in the corner, go to the web page for Force Kite and Wake where you come to register. Skippers meeting again tonight, 6:30 p.m., sponsored by Estuary Beans and Barley. There'll be free food and beer. Thanks to the James Island Yacht Club all the way around for hosting this event for us this year. Again, foil clinic at 8 o'clock p.m. That'll be Fred Hope from Slingshot and Hunter Becker from North. So that's pretty exciting. Gates open tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So again, they're just calling for everybody to park outside the gate, down the street or along the street, and then in the park area if you can, to free up the space for all the barbecue folks that are doing the cook-off and the members that are part of the James Island Yacht Club. Final registration tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. So the Dowman race is going to be determined from where to where and at what time. I think it's going to be a battery to fort race this year. And then the awards at 5 o'clock p.m. And this is when all the fun happens, is in the afternoon after the race when well, the race is fun too, but I'm just saying, like, it's fun to hang out and see everybody, people you haven't seen in a long time. So I'll be there either way for the whole day, and it'll be a lot of fun. Look at all the sponsors we have this year. We have Rita and Nash. I mean, we got a lot of really cool folks coming down this year as part of this whole event. So here's the Facebook page. You can see for yourself. Neil Hutchinson will be back, of course. We've got a lot of folks. Ashlyn with Nash. We've got Daniel Ware coming back with Cabrina. You name it. Just go to the Facebook page and check in for the updates here as we go into tonight. Let's go ahead with the forecast. Looking at visible satellite, I did a continental view so you could see the bigger view of what's going on. And what we've had is we had an upper low develop over the Kentucky, over the Ohio Valley mainly, and it's now moving up over the Great Lakes, and it's going to slow down as it does before it heads off to the north in time. And what you see is today we have a pretty strong westerly gradient coming across the area. It's really stiff gradient up in the Chesapeake Tidewater area, spilling down across southeast North Carolina. And of course, we're about 18 to 21 knots right now across our area. And that will probably hold up for much of the day. We may even get a little stronger later this afternoon. We have high pressure from Texas moving into the area that's going to be increasing the gradient this afternoon, or at least holding it in place, holding a moderate gradient in place. And then we'll talk about tomorrow morning. So let's go ahead and go over to our surface map, WP surface map, where we are right now. There's that upper low over the Great Lakes. It's going to be heading north and slowing down. Here goes the ridge across Arklatex and over the northern Gulf states. And that's going to continue to slowly expand east. And the good thing is that by tomorrow, or overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, it looks like that dome is going to slow down and at least develop another center just along the northern Gulf of Mexico. Earlier, I was worried that this would not happen, that the isobar would just expand out across the Carolinas and would just kill off that westerly flow. But it looks like we're going to have a center trying to develop along the northern Gulf of Mexico, which is key in keeping that westerly gradient going. So what we have is a ridge axis that builds up to the north, and then we have this upper low that's still cutting down with a gradient and an inland trough. So that means, basically what that means is we have a moderate gradient that could hold up into the early to mid afternoon hours, and that's favorable for the race hours. And that's what the models are stiffening out right now. So a much better favorable situation. The other alternative was that this high eased up over the Carolinas, killed the west wind, and then we try to get a southwest or south-southwest sea breeze going in the afternoon. That looks like it's likely less and less likely to happen, simply because of where the high is going to be positioning. So looking at the NAM 12, we can kind of see how this is coming together, where you see the low heading off to the northeast, and then the high coming across the northern Gulf of Mexico as we get into Saturday morning. The only question will be how much of a gradient is going to be left over in the morning between this low, this wraparound flow, and this high that's coming across the area. So directions look to be a little bit more west-northwest versus west, and that's due to that ridge axis pushing up to the north behind that low. So that's kind of the gist of what's going to happen with the directions and where the wind is all coming from, where it's originating from, what we have to look at for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and take a look right now. And I think I'm still in miles per hour. I had some storm coverage yesterday that I switched to miles per hour. So let me go back to knots. That way we're in more of a competitive range for what our wind speeds are going to be actuals in the sailing and kiteboarding. So right now we're holding a 16 knot gradient across the harbor, and it looks like the trim model. We have a new trim model that just came out just fairly recently. This is an AI model that puts a lot of values in with other modeling and all kinds of parameters that go into it. So it's a relatively new one for us, but we still have the WRF 2 kilometer, our weather flow WRF 2 kilometer. If I can get it to the models to load, let me try this again. I have to just refresh the page. Sometimes this thing gets stuck a little bit. Here we go. Now let's try it with the graph, all available models. And here we go. So let's see if we can get them all to work. This thing's being sticky this morning. Looks like it's trying to think about it. It may be going through a model cycle as we speak, so I'll come back to that in just a moment. But pretty much we're going to hold this 18 knot gradient through much of the day. We may get some gains in the afternoon up to 20 to 24 knots as we get to the peak heating hours of the day. Sometimes we get a little bit of a gain off of that early to mid-afternoon. And then later on, we do expect it to slowly fall. So let me try to run these models again. Here we go. So that's the consensus for today, is we're going to keep that moderate gradient going for much of the day and falling off this evening. As we get into tomorrow morning, now you notice that this is the Schutz's Folly sensor. We've seen some ups and downs of these models, but earlier in the week, 3 or 4 days ago, we were seeing that the west wind was just going to die off into like the 6 to 10 knot range and then try to come back up in the 10 to 14 knot range from the southwest. And now we're seeing a whole different model suite aiming at a 12 to 16 knot range for the winds. So this has shifted from this morning. It was a little bit higher, looked like more like a 13 to 17. So I'll be watching this through the day to see what the trends are going to be from the modeling suite. But we all know in the Charleston area that west winds, especially around an upper low, even a distant upper low, tend to be a little stronger than normal. So I would hedge this to be a little on the higher side, that 12 to 16 knot range, and maybe even be able to push 14 to 18 to hold through noon or 1 o'clock. That's the best bet. I'm not going to wish cast that, but I will say later as we get into the skippers meeting tonight, I'll be fine tuning the forecast to give you some actuals there so you know what kind of gear to ride. So that's pretty much it for the Schutz's Folly area. I picked that place because it's closest to the point where the start might be towards the battery, if that's going to be battery to fort. I don't see how we could do it the other way around on the west wind, but that'll be likely the call. Okay, so with that said, let's do moon phases. We're on a waxing crescent moon, just coming out of a new moon phase with higher than normal tides, faster currents. And with that west wind in place, we actually have blowout tides. So it stalls like where those tides would be pretty high. Now we're getting into a lower tide range. It's almost what you almost might call a neap tide or a quasi neap tide, because it's not fully the neap tide cycle here. You can see what goes on. We're high tide tomorrow. Tomorrow morning will only be right around 5 feet, around 1 o'clock p.m. And so as we go into the currents, I always like to take, let's see, Fort Johnson, just northwest of Fort Johnson is a great place to pick because it's close to right where the race course is. The depth is unknown, but it is a virtual reading for the currents for this area, which will show the strongest, let's see, slack tide at 816, 10, half a knot on the flood tide. So that means those west winds will be pushing against the flood as it's trying to come in. So we'll end up with not that big of a deal on the current and then going slack at 110. So if the race is 12 to 1, we'll be on that lower end. There won't be a whole lot of current. In fact, there'll be a surface current from that west wind if it holds up in those moderate ranges, and that'll help us out. Other than that, high temperatures tomorrow only expected to be mid 70s, but pleasant. Lots of sunshine out there. It'll be a great day either way. And hopefully we'll see you guys out there at the skippers meeting tonight, if not tomorrow morning at the race and all day for the event. So with that said, I'll sign off for this forecast and we'll see you tonight. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.